So, the 3 Ds. Definitions, documentation and discussion, and the middle one I know is a bit of a dirty word sometimes. When it comes to building things, it's much more fun to build them than it is to document them, right? But putting it down on paper, it gives you 2 things. One, it gives you something to come back to. When the client is saying, no, 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 I wanted it to do this, and that it would then produce all of these pages, screens, whatever, and you can go, when we put it down, you see, you click here, that gives you 1 thing, not 10. Okay. Discussion, getting that understanding with them. So the scope, what is it that is going to be done? The intent, how is it supposed to do that, and what is it supposed to achieve? So what is going to be included, how is it going to be done, and what is it going to achieve, and that priority on components. When it comes to setting a priority, it actually doesn't matter what scale you use, as long as you've got 4 or 5 variables. So it could be that it's priority 1, 2, 3, 4. It could be critical, important, nice to have, and icing on the cake. You know, it doesn't matter what terminology you use. It actually helps to get the client to set the words that they like to use. You know, maximum benefit, or perhaps less needed. Whatever the wording is, agree with them a list of 4 words or 5 words, and then get them to assign those to each of the features that they're asking for. Be upfront about your support and ongoing roles and costs, because if you build it in right at the start, it's much easier at the back end. It also helps them understand, use some similes with their car. It must need servicing regularly, it must need, you know, there are things that you need to do operationally, fill it with fuel every week, every day, depending on how far you go. And then there are other things that you need to do periodically. Change the brake pads. Help them understand that what they're getting in the system that you're delivering is not, it's not something that's going to be like a pyramid and last for centuries. You know, what you're delivering is an operational tool that needs maintenance. And so getting that expectation up front helps you to keep engaged with them further down, and helps you to also generate some ongoing income. But it also gives them the understanding that over time something may break, something may change. It doesn't mean that your product was poor quality to start with. It is the nature of the living nature of code and what happens. And if you don't maintain it, it does decay. So I want to talk to you about the importance of communication and what happens when it goes wrong. There's this famous picture. How many of you have seen this before? Okay, it's been around 1973, that Guide to Good Programming Practice from London, 1973, can you believe that? This shows what happens when people put their own interpretation onto what is normally something that you think people would understand, a swing in a tree. How hard is that to understand? And yet, everyone gets their own idea. We see at the bottom what the client really wanted. The tyre swing. They may have said, what I want is a swing that more than one person can use. So what did the sponsor do? They put 3 seats on it. But what they didn't understand is the client said they didn't have to be all at once. Yes, more than one person can use, but they can take turns. And again, that's about getting that up front. What is the requirement? What is the need? What is the benefit? Do you really need 3 people on it at once? No. There is a more modern version of this, which I had seen somewhere around on Lassie Chat a while ago. And I quite like this, especially if you see at the end there how the business consultant described it. It's like the sun shines out of it. It's the most comfortable thing in the world. The programmer attached it to the tree, all right. Just didn't didn't quite get the fact that the trunk was different from the branch. It's on the tree. The project documentation? Yeah, what operations installed? Oh my gosh, I've had some problems with the operational technical department in the Ministry of Health trying to get my register installed correctly. And the number of times that they would do part of it and then say it was done. And hang on, where's the rest of it? Yes. How it was supported? Well, you know, it's the bottom of the tree. Do you really need any more? Okay. So, identifying what the client doesn't know that they don't know. In the same way as that tree diagram, I wanted to bring you something that's completely left field, something that no one would ever come to you for, but it may help you understand, and it may help you do a kind of worked example with your client to get them to understand what is it that you need to understand about what they need. So there are ways of doing this, tools to draw them out. Tactile sessions, I really like using post-it notes. You pass them around to, you get your client, more than one person in the room. You try and get, find a person in the company who gets it, who understands really what they're trying to do, and often that's not the boss. The boss gets the overall and gets how much they want to pay, and that's what they'll be thinking. The person who understands what the business is delivering is often an operational person, and you can get often better information from that person. So try and engage them as well. Anyone within the company who has technical knowledge, who can help understand about support and also that interpretation, working with the boss of the company when they go away back from your office, or when after your meeting, you know that someone's going to go away and talk to them, help them understand the bits that the boss didn't get, who's going to be paying for it, and thinks, well, why do I need to have this bit, because I don't see why it's necessary. Giving them a big picture. I like what Sean did with their photo of what was on the wall when they were breaking down LEAP. Giving them the big picture, sometimes they have no understanding about how, when you're wanting to select just one or two things, actually what goes behind that is a whole lot of information and a whole lot of things that you need to lock down and relationships you need to build, all these sorts of things. Or use a scenario, like I just want to go through with you now. The client says, I want my client to eat lunch. I want you to build a system so that my client can eat lunch. You think, okay, that can't be too hard. I mean, lunch. All right? The developer is thinking, yeah, easy. The client's thinking, we need cutlery, we're having soup, we're having other things to eat. Already you see there's a mismatch, and it comes from your perceptions and what you've known and experienced before. So the client says, I want this. We're thinking one thing, they're thinking something else. So how do we describe to the client what they need to give us so that they don't get the pizza? So we set the context, and we tell them about how in the programming language we need to set the variables and the things that we need to have. What are the food types? How do they relate together? What are the cutlery types? What are we going to use? Start building up a picture for them, and they start to see, hang on, we've got all of these things. I just wanted to get my clients to eat lunch. I thought it was simple. And yet you come to it and you see, and then we get to things like sequences. And we get to things like constraints. Are we going to tell our business client that their clients should not be allowed to eat salad and ice cream together? And this is where sometimes requirements can get out of hand. There's some sort of natural things that you can scope out because they will not occur. And if they do occur, actually doesn't matter. If you have a client who has really bizarre tastes in lunch and wants to eat salad and ice cream, should we stop them?